welcome back to Cover Decoder. It's the show where you're a 10-year-old boy. You go to the video store with your dad.
Oh.
And you start picking out movies. And you pick out a fascinating-looking cartoon action film with a woman half naked riding some sort of strange porpoise pterodactyl thing, wielding a sword.
Dragon.
You think your dad won't notice because it's a cartoon, and it's just your luck because he doesn't. He takes it home along with his other pile of movies, and you sneak it upstairs to watch it by yourself,
That's right.
knowing what's hidden within. But fate of fates,
Don't come in here.
Your dad decides to have a family movie night and says, Jimmy, bring that movie down you just rented.
Your mom's here too.
That's right.
Your grandma's come for spaghetti.
This is the show where you sit down.
autobiographical?
This is the show where you sit down with your entire family and you watch heavy metal with Grammy.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
it's Cover Decoder. We talk
It's
about
just like
covers.
those books I like to read.
Oh, I used to have some moves. Oh, she's not doing it right. She's faking, I can tell.
That's right. Covers for film, for books, for vinyl, posters,
Yes.
all
Yes.
the stuff you love to look at. You see it, you like what you see, but you don't know. You don't know the history behind it. You don't know the techniques that went in to making the incredible art that you are seeing that makes you want to pick up that book, listen to that record, see that film.
You don't even
And
know
that's
how
what we
to
do
process looking at the cover without Ink's or Brengineer's creamy voice explaining it to you. It's impossible.
That's right. That's
This is
right.
what you want.
That's
what you need.
Now we're here for a sad occasion.
Special.
But you know what?
Special.
It's a fun occasion too because we get to talk about a really incredible, unique,
Iconic.
artists by the name of Richard Corben, who sadly passed away earlier this year.
No.
So we're gonna pour out a little liquor. He died in December, so a little liquor
year.
spiked eggnog. We're just gonna pour it
Slightly
on
curdled.
his-
That
slightly
you
curdled, just
left
pour
out
it on,
for Criff
on
Holloway.
on his grave. Yes, and that's where we're at. How are we doing today, guys?
We are so excited. We're so excited to be celebrating this man who is responsible for so many young boys filling up their favorite childhood socks and hiding them from their parents.
I mean, Brengineer's already lighting candles.
Yeah,
you know it's going to
yep.
be a serious episode.
This is a serious episode.
I'm not wearing a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have all of our stage mascara, our corpse paint is all running down our face.
That's right. I've got my lamp and dagger candle, Autumn Bow
Yes.
Hollow scented, halfway melted. I'm going to be a sad boy when this is nothing but a can.
Autumn Bow Hollow scented. This episode has been sitting on our shelf. It has been pushing behind us, like the water pressure slowly building up over time in that ancient toilet. I mean, this one happened last year. We knew about it. We heard about it. We felt it. But folks, we record pretty early in advance because we're a three-guy. Hey, we're three guys. We're trying to chop this thing together for you. We're out there working hard, and we couldn't. We had to wait, but we could hear Richard Corben's sweet smile from far off, and one of our longtime cover cultists, before there was even a cover cult, had brought to our attention some amazing information. But before we get into
Strider Rider,
we need to the Strider Cajun. Before we get into that, we need to talk about a little bit of an origin story.
Yes. We have to talk about the Sockmaster just a touch. So that
a touch. Well, like all good creators of sex and violence, he was born in the 1940s in the good old US of A.
Oh yes.
That's right.
Repression
The land of
breeds
sex and
amazing
violence.
things.
That's right. And so young Mr. Corben was born in Missouri, in Anderson, Missouri. I don't know where that is.
I've got a map right here if you want to take a look. It's on the very corner. I mean, it's almost not even Missouri. It's almost Oklahoma going into Arkansas. You know, I have family in Missouri in this sort of area. It's nearly Arkansas. Yeah. It's very rural. There's nothing to do out there but fill up socks. But
that's why they have such big hands. I know
that eventually he found himself in the bustling metropolis of Kansas City.
That's right. And I just want to stop for a second. This man has the kindest eyes.
Yes. Are they going in the pocket?
Pocket? Are we going in the pocket?
Oh, the Corbin eyes are going right in the pocket.
Dude, the mouth creases.
And he's got that old, like, saggy neck. You know, it sort of...
yeah, he kind of looks like a giant's nutsack has been pulled tightly over a skeleton. Just a little bit.
Oh. No, and it's been tastefully shaved for Valentine's Day.
And I
don't know what award he's holding here. When I put this up here, I was like, I don't know what award this is. It's a Mrs. Buttersworth of some sort. But he
was an awkward dude, so you know he just grabbed that for comfort from his shelf.
Yeah. And to top it all off, he's got these really disturbing black suspenders.
I love it.
And the wall behind him is the same color as his shirt. It's just a very
every
strange...
computer from the 70s and 80s.
Those suspenders are to hang up his massive dork, dude.
Anyway,
massive dork.
He's holding this little trophy, and his entire life's work has built up to this moment where he gets this confusing statue.
I love this young picture of him where he's got so much fire and piss and vinegar. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're not my real dad, Theodore. Stop taking pictures of me.
You don't like my boobs?
I'm trying to draw big boobs.
I'm gonna draw boobs.
Leave me alone.
Try and censor me."
So, folks,
you could see him in a leather jacket, dating your daughter, and then you'd come over to here and. You know, life is soft.
Except not at all, because folks, Richard Corben, one of the things he's known for is being incredibly shy. There's not many interviews with him. He didn't really like doing interviews. He didn't really feel comfortable talking. He was doing art at a young age, and his parents encouraged him to continue to do that. And he did pursue that. He went to school.
The Kansas City Art Institute. He went there in 1965, and he got a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
That's right.
Then stalks of corn were drawn.
That's right. And while he was doing this, he was also training in bodybuilding.
Ooh.
Can you imagine a beefy, ripped Corben?
Yes. Yes, I want to see it.
He's pretty skimpy in a lot of his photos. So... I
don't know. I'm seeing a nice pulsy vein as he's holding up this Mrs. Buttersworth. Look at that. You see that on the...
You know, you guys are going to find
folks,
something...
if you want to see this pulsy vein, you can go to our show notes and you can get the slide link. It's right there. Oh, look at that.
There's something very interesting. We're going to find out through the course of this that Corben actually is Den. There are, artists often will sort of... well, no joke. Artists will often, put themselves in the seat of what they're writing or what they're drawing because, that's just natural. But I think for Corben, him being shy, yes, he tried bodybuilding. Even later, he tried doing karate, but he said he was getting his butt kicked too hard. And that story starts off with this shy kind of nerdy office guy who sheds, or I should say, enlarges his inner wants and desires and becomes this ultimate superhuman being. And Corben really tapped into that idea of, escaping through his work and really fantasizing those ideas. And a lot of people have kind of accused his work of, sort of being misogynistic, but in truth, as he's kind of said, and what I believe is he just did what a lot of artists do, and they take the elements of interest for them and they just amp them up a lot. So a lot of Corben's work is, I think, just, his way of sort of expressing the frustration of the things he wanted to be, but was not,
Yeah. He does not hold back at all.
No,
he does not.
And a lot of artists do that. And you got to do that to make good art. Because we've talked about this a lot. If you repress your art, then you are never going to reach the potential that you want to be as an artist.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's true.
Put that hand on the listener's shoulder, Tape.
Yeah. Tell them what's what.
If you repress your art, you're never going to be your true self.
That's right.
So get out there.
Wizard is never late.
Some dorks.
So from this point on, the story of Corben is comics and magazines, and that's what he spent the majority of his career doing. He did other things as well, as you'll see, but really his career was
the trunk of that tree.
The trunk of the tree was comics. But before we get into the comics and the magazines, why don't you take us away on a trip down rock and roll lane?
The first slide that we're going to talk about, the first cover that we're going to talk about,
look at some covers with you.
Yeah. Is not a comic, but he did get his opportunity from his comic book work. And I had mentioned before, Strider Kaijin, he had sent as a great write-up, an article in its own.
That's you on the motorcycle, Strider, this episode. Just Strider, so you know.
That's right. And he had brought to our attention Bad Out of Hell. Now, this is Corben's one of his most iconic pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it absolutely helped drive this album to being as famous as it is. I mean, there was a lot of things going on at that Nexus. I can't get too much into it because we're here for the covers, but I will say that this was actually his first album cover that he had ever done. And
it's a looker.
Yeah, it's a looker.
I want to touch everything in this.
Let's describe it real quick. So, Tapes, you want to describe this one?
Yes, I want to describe it. Oh man, I got my sock right here. So
freaking good,
folks. What we're looking at is a Red album, and one of the things I love about Corben is, and one of the things many people who love his work will all agree on, Corben is a master of colors and light.
Color.
Oh boy.
Even colors that don't make sense together.
Yeah.
Don't make sense. Now make sense.
His work is garish.
Sometimes he uses like vomit colors and somehow it looks beautiful. Yeah. He swirls it around
girl in the theater department who's got all the different colors in her hair, yes. and it's at some point it shouldn't make sense, but somehow you're intrigued and you just wish that you could get past your Corbenness and go talk to her. But
this sounds like a personal story.
Yeah,
look, listen. This is a very sensitive. Corben brings out a lot of personal experiences.
Damn it, Tammy! Where did you go?
Just like Meemaw watching, heavy metal with everyone going, I remember me and Emilio.
I know.
We had quite the vacation on the beach.
It gets really awkward. She's like, Inks, you're not the only one who's going to be having some personal time tonight. No, Grandma, no!
No! Okay, back to Meatloaf. Back to Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell, 1977.
Get out of here, Tammy. Okay, so red, steak, uncooked red, okay? The background is this amazing swab of red and then orange, but the cool thing about the orange is it's filtering into this beautiful cloud. And in front of the cloud is this bat who's kind of breathing out this smoke. Yeah. And he's got his arms lifted and he's going, and it's a super awesome looking bat.
Ray Harryhausen
skeleton Ray Harryhausen Night Flyer. The translucency on his wings is just so amazing. It's this little pink red, but it doesn't fade into the background. You can tell that it's webbed. He is standing on top of a grave. And this will bring us to the foreground, which is a ball of earth, folks. It's not a mound. This is a ball of earth.
This is not a flat world.
And
this is fisheye lens material going on.
Fisheye lens, and it's brown. It is a deep chocolatey Brengineer brown. It smells like dew. I love it. There's these sort of scraggly bushes coming up in the background. And, of course, it is a graveyard. You've got these gravestones. And leading up to the front right-hand corner, there's a grave spot, and it's exploding open with this pounding white light. And like a comet zipping out is this amazing black motorcycle with a cow skull on it, and sitting just ripped with very accurate muscles and flowing hair and probably tremendously large dong is Meatloaf flying out at a 90-degree
I don't know
angle.
if that's Meatloaf.
This is Meatloaf?
He is clearly ejaculating into the gas tank.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very clearly.
Easily.
Need more
And
fuel!
I'll say, I think this is meant to be a horse because it's got the mane.
Oh,
and
you're
then
right. It's a horse
tail.
skull. Yeah.
This is you've turned your horse into a motorcycle.
Yeah, when he revs the engine,
awesomer.
it powers the fleshlight, and he just blasts off into the night sky.
Sorry, Bill.
This
You're
is
much
a
cooler now.
disappointing. This is a disappointing album cover, and here's why. It's amazing.
goodness.
And as a kid, I looked at this cover and I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And it's called
cool.
Bad Out of Hell. And I'm like, Meatloaf. I mean, that's weird.
Bad out of hell.
And then you actually listen to the music. And you're just like,
I like it.
what?
I like it.
You're like, no.
So
just,
Inks, there's a beautiful quote here by our very own Strider. I think this is a perfect time
I
to
put
read
this quote up from his his synopsis, which is really a full page. Beautiful work done by you, Detective Strider. You're gonna get a hat tip from us. You are now on the team.
So Strider is one of our followers, and he also has his own Instagram page. So if you're listening and you want to check out his excellent Instagram page, you should definitely do that.
VHS's
Strider Kaijin
albums. Yes, Kaijin. We'll put it up here with the slides. But he said, Corben's kinetic and evocative art outclasses the music, in my opinion.
Yes.
As I am not a huge fan of Meatloaf's particular brand of operatic, arena-oriented rock.
Yes.
It has its appeal, though. And certainly the musical landscape of the late 70s and early 80s would have been different without the prolific output of those kindred musicians. But for my money, Corben's covers are the real star.
Yes.
Eloquently put.
Yeah.
Very well.
And the two musicians he's talking about here is Meatloaf, but the songs, the actual meat of the work is by Jim Steinman.
Jim Steinman. So they were working together on a futuristic sci-fi planet version of Peter Pan, I believe it is. And there was 3 songs. Bad Out of Hell was one of them. And they were like, man, we could really make this into something. We could make this an album. They did. Jim Steinman wanted to have equal billing as Meatloaf, but for whatever reason, the label wanted to headline Meatloaf, maybe because of the name is just like, outlandish. And he got songs by Jim Steinman on there. But Jim Steinman is the person who led us to Richard Corben. Yep. He is the one who wanted Richard Corben's art on the album. He actually spelled out or kind of helped design the album. He lent that motorcycle steed with the guy bent backwards. Yep. That was Steinman's notes. Yeah. So Corben received an unexpected phone call from Meatloaf's New York agent and found out later that he owed this opportunity again to Jim Steinman. And I'm taking this information from a heck of an interview done on gilmoredesign.co.uk. I'll link to the whole article, but just a great Q&A and full of little art tidbits for us to find.
Steak bites.
And And part of the design is owed to the fact that they needed the final art within a week. So he didn't really have a time to do preliminary sketches. And he had this pre-existing image of a bat that he had drawn for his Den series. And he put that in the background there.
Oh, man, so we get some Corben in there.
Yeah, so this is a bat from Den.
Right on.
And then again, the motorcycle concept was from Steinman. And then the interviewer asked, how important do you think that Bat Out of Hell was to the album success? And this will give you kind of an idea of Richard Corben's personality, because it's very humble. He says, we all do the best we can. If by chance cosmic influences come together in a miraculous way and something beyond expectation can happen, I'm just glad I happened to be in the right place at the right time so I could be a part of it. And I must admit, I had no idea the album would be so popular or why one image would soon become iconic. Now, finally, he did not have any involvement with the logo or the typography. It was just the painting that is owed to Richard Corben. But it was a hell of a painting. 1977, This hit the shelves. Now, I've also got on here, it was a 24 by 24, so he doubled the size of what the album was going to be. 24 by 24 over oil painting.
That's big, folks.
Yeah, that's
24
large.
by 24, that's large.
2 foot by 2 foot.
A lot of work.
Yeah. And that's he did oil over acrylic. So he underpainted acrylic and then oil over the top. I'm not sure why, but we've seen that a lot. I've seen that over and over again, especially from these old masters. So we're going to have to ask someone one day why acrylic first, followed by oil.
You know why?
Why?
Okay, so
it dries.
So here's what I do when I paint, right?
Tell me.
I do a lot of highlights.
Secrets.
Yeah.
I do a lot of highlights on my work. Everything is highlights. Nice. Everything has light where light shouldn't be.
Crispy.
Right? Because that's just how I paint. It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Now, what I notice is with acrylics, white doesn't show up very well. Once you've covered everything in your paint, you're going through your white highlights, your white, you have to do layer after layer after layer of whites. With yellows, you have to do layer after layer after layer with yellows, because certain paints I've noticed, certain colors are just more opaque, right? Those lighter colors, more opaque. So from what I'm looking at here, you've got this blinding white sort of exhaust explosion coming out. You've got these yellow highlights on the cloud. My guess is, and this is just a guess based on my own acrylic work I've done, is he did the flats, the color flats to the acrylic, highlights with oil. That's my guess. That's what I'm going with.
Oh. Well,
do you think he actually?
There you have it.
He actually
folks.
painted some of this in acrylic.
The Bringineer take. I will say I splurge and I get the high pigment whites myself. So that's probably the most expensive paint in my arsenal. I splurge and I get the high covering, high pigment white, and I'll
white
add that
is the
to my
most
yellow.
Expensive pigment in your arsenal.
Well, the high pigment,
if you get the high pigment, like he said, it's hard to get your coverage with white, but if you get the more expensive paint because it has more pigment in it.
Keep saying pigment. Is that what
pigment?
They
put more powder in the goop. They take their powder there. You get a little bit more, a little bit more party time, a little bit more party time in your paint.
I guess I'm wrong about my idea. I just buy cheap, shitty paints. I gotcha.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you are right.
I gotcha.
But the way you get around that is you pay extra for that white.
In short, folks, I don't know why Richard Corben started with acrylics and then oil.
And go back to school.
It looks awesome. How's that?
It does.
It looks awesome. We got the Bringineer take. I love it.
This next piece, however.
So some might call this a eulogy.
This
Again,
is
Strider
beautiful.
sent me this one along with the Meatloaf album, and he sent it to me because this is Jim Steinman's solo album. It is called Bad for Good.
Or just bad. You can just call it bad.
Now this came out in 1981. The songs were originally intended to be recorded by Meatloaf as a follow-up to Bat Out of Hell, and it was going to be called renegade angel. However, Meatloaf suffered vocal problems, was unable to sing. Now, before I go any further, who would like to describe
this is Brengineer. He has a passion. I can tell angel. He has a passion for this.
Okay, there's a time, folks, when you can pull off amazing arts, but your subject matter is just awful. And this is that case. This is incredible talent put to terrible subject matter. And the thing I hate most, and I've always hated this.
I want to hear it.
It's the guitar.
In album covers, is when you're a rock and roll band and you have a freaking guitar on the cover somewhere. Man, I hate that so much. It's so dumb. Like,
welcome to heaven, Boston baby. Let me play you a solo.
Those Boston album covers with the spaceship guitars is the
the spaceship guitars. That's dumbest. I love that.
Is the dumbest thing. It's dumb.
They're gonna
you killed my boner.
Coming straight to Boston to take you to heaven with the guitar.
Here's what we got. We've got incredible artwork. I'm talking the lighting, the shadow, the textures, the layout, the composition. All of it is incredibly done. But in short, you have a very blue image, clouds, a moon, an angel with some holding a chain. In the other hand, he's holding a guitar. He's got some tattoos. His body is just lusciously, all the muscles rippling and illuminated by the moon.
Yes, you can climb him like a mountain.
Climb him like a mountain, just like the woman who is clutching his beautiful naked form. Clearly is, and she's got the '80s sort of fluffy,
buff.
Fluffy,
feathery
long,
hair. That's
feathery,
right.
fluffy hair thing. Just not good. I don't like this, guys. I don't like it.
Well, even if you don't like it, it's a Corben classic. It is well done. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Even if it's a little bit horrifying at the same time. Going back to the interview, some more information. He said on the Bad for Good in 1981. Again, these were Jim's ideas that he was conveying to him by telephone. Except for this time, he actually got to hear the music. They sent him a tape of the music so he could get a little taste, a little flavor of what he was covering. And Jim had really specific ideas. He wanted an angel with a guitar, and he wanted it to be very different than Bat Out of Hell. He did call Richard back to make one change. Originally, Richard had the angel with like a loincloth like hanging down, and Jim wanted a nice
plantain sack,
jockey type,
the plantain nest,
hammock,
plantain nest,
nest. And Richard said, "I saw immediately that this change was for the best." And finally, I've got a picture of Jim just by himself.
What's he wearing? His power glove? He's trying to go back in time to where he had more hair. His
Mad Max outfit. His Immortal Joe.
Dude, I love all these guys. They're all dressed in like leather and gloves, and they're trying to look all badass. And their songs are like rock and roll heaven.
Like a bat out of hell. Yeah. Well, Meatloaf is from Texas, but Jim is from New York, and he had this quote to say about Richard Corben's work. He said, "The sexual richness of Richard Corben's work is overwhelming. This is a world that is endlessly horny for wonder and magic, and the intertwining of light and dark forces here, and of love and decay, and unknown altars and insatiable tunes, of unchanged gods, insatiable demons, and unending dreams and unyielding nightmares. This is all dazzling. With Corben, not only is anything possible, but it's inevitable." And
wow.
He looks like the man who would say that. Well said, though.
That is such a good summation. As cheesy and dorky as this dude is, as cheesy as this angel is, that is an incredible quote about Richard Corben's art. And that's why we started with this segment, because this is not where he began. This is kind of in the middle of his career, maybe towards the end. And, actually in the middle of his career. But this is when he's flying high, just like an angel with a guitar. and
Yep, balls deep in that motorcycle.
well, and once again, we have to thank you, Strider.
Yep.
You did us proud.
As always.
You set me on this path, and I can't thank you more because I just came off of Fantasy February, and I'm a little bit exhausted. I need some help, pal. Thank you. So,
well,
all right.
Moving on, folks. When I was looking into the rich, filthy
uncooked hot dog
tapestry made out of Corben's
ham
collection
carvings
of socks,
ham carvings,
I found some information because I wanted to find other things that Corben has done, because he is not just he's not just a man of illustration. He's also a man of the hands and of the eye.
How much bubble gum did he have to collect off the desk to make this? Them titties alone are at least 2 pounds of bubble gum.
What we're trying to keep from not spilling out, folks, is on the slides. You can go look. Richard Corben was also a sculptor, and he used sculptures quite a lot in his art. And he would use them for lighting. He would use them for just sort of setting the tone and preparing for some of his work. And I think he just enjoyed it as well. And as you can tell from the slides, you know what the hell, Inks? Why don't you describe what these sculptures are?
Well, so I know that he used this as reference for his comics a lot of times. He would use clay to help reference forms and shapes. Right now, we've got Den doing a flying kick, and you're not sure what's going to hit the bad guy first, his foot or his dork.
My question is, what's that like spilling out of the base? There's a big...
Well, that's
his
the wire holding him
nutsack,
up.
dude. Oh, yo, you mean coming
like puddle of something? What is
that's
that?
His essence. That's that
That's the
Lochnar.
den. That's the den essence.
But yeah, he's doing a flying kick. He is a beautiful coffee brown. I'm not sure what he sculpted this with. And he's got the powerful spine shaking yell as he's doing his flying dork kick. Next to him is the bubblegum hot dog ham sculpture.
The ham carving.
Carving. We're talking about as a woman.
We shall call her Ham Girl.
Probably on an altar, or maybe presenting herself to Den. Maybe that's
playing
who he's
on
doing
an
the flying
altar of
dork
baloney.
kick at. Yeah, and she's leaned back. Her back is arched. Her body speaks of pleasure, but her face
looks
speaks
like
of
it's
coma.
kind of asleep.
Looks aged. It looks like a 70-year-old Mima on the body of a 20-year-old.
Oh, I remember how Emilio was so gentle when he laid me back on the sack of plantains.
That's why I have to put my head back every time.
That's right.
The body's young.
That's right. I was quite lithe at the time, but not that lithe. So yeah, that's what we have here, folks. It's brilliant. Again, go all the way.
Yes.
Go to 11.
Go all the way. And folks, on my
Make
next
those
slide,
sculptures.
you're going to have a link to a site. I believe it's called Muda, and it represents itself as the most complete index of all of Corben's work. And
yes, I did see that one.
Yeah, there's actually a link there, and you can look at a bunch of sculptures that
A bunch of weird stuff
that are Corben's and some other associates that he had working for him too. But the reason I put these up here was because I had heard that Corben had done sculpting, and I was curious how that impacted his work. And a lot of artists will say that they used, sculpting or maquettes or things like that. And on my quest to kind of uncover this, I found something more interesting. And that was on our next slide here, which is that Richard Corben also did some movie posters. And he did, to my knowledge...
We swear he did comics and magazines, folks.
Yes. And I was under the impression that he was pretty much exclusively comics and album covers as well. Because I hadn't heard of him doing much else. But he in fact did, as I'm aware, 4 movie posters. I just have 2 up here. And the first one we have is for a film from 1986 called Spookies, which is a horror film with a very, very interesting backstory. Inks, why don't you describe what's going on in this one?
For the Spookies?
Yeah.
Okay. Goodness. You've got a maiden. She's blonde. She's beautiful. She's busty. She's Corben-esque.
Very Corben-esque.
And she is the shining white centerpiece to this poster. She is being grabbed at, pulled, tugged, ripped by all manner of ghouls. There's a bat-faced one. There's a hag. There's a mud
egg face
Bigfoot monster. There's a skeleton guy. There's almost a alien, Ridley Scott style alien, and absolutely there's a graveyard behind her and a glowing model of the Alamo. I'm guessing this is historical fiction. And then we've got is not Dracula. He's almost Dracula, except for the teeth. Some sort of maybe other ghoul, king ghoul, and he's got his mouth open. You get the yellow teeth. Bad guys never have clean teeth. They didn't listen to their moms. And orange eyes. We're looking straight into his nostrils, not a hair on there, because ghouls are very fastidious about their nostril hair. And raspberry jam leaking out of his head.
Right,
and I gotta tell you, I don't think that was Corben. I think that Corben, you can see where they've cut around Corben's piece, and they added this poorly, painted over, clearly a photograph.
That looks like a photo.
It's clearly a photograph. Some poor schmuck got paid $10 to paint over, and then try to work into Corben's image. That's my guess. I don't
know. I think it's all part of one. I think it is all Corben's work. But regardless, this is a super effective, awesome poster and cover.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, and the weird thing is, I mean, he was even able to sneak his name down onto the poster, which is very rare.
Well, so the interesting thing about this movie, folks, as Inks described, it's an awesome poster, and I've seen this a bunch of times in my feed. I've seen it scrolling through various streaming sites, and I've always wanted to watch it, and I haven't yet. I did spool through it a little bit this afternoon because I had to figure out what this movie was about, but turns out this movie has a pretty ridiculous backstory. In order to find out some more information about the cover, I had to find out some information about the movie. So I have a link. You can dig into it more. It's really long. It has the whole saga, but basically this movie was directed by like 2 or 3 different people. It had multiple production teams, and it was just a complete train wreck. And when you watch the movie,
hail or high water,
you can tell the movie is so disjointed. It makes no sense. There are farting mummies. There is a Chinese Spider Woman that just sucks the meat out of some guy and leaves him as like a shell. There's a Grim Reaper. It's a hot mess. It's one of those movies where
Gremlins 2.
No, Gremlins 2 is a real movie. This is just like this is a macaroni taco lasagna.
Real thing.
Yeah, and so in fact, even Corben said that just from his viewing of the film. So I have a quote actually from Corben about his work on this poster. So he says, "From watching the video, I got the impression that the movie wasn't exactly integrated. It was a parade of various monsters that menaced the lead characters. This was okay for me as I had plenty to choose from to put in the art. It didn't have any pretensions, and I didn't either. I remember hiring a model for the figure with her clothing being torn. I bought a dress from Goodwill just for the purpose of being torn off the model. I took reference photos at various stages of tearing. It was great fun." So
what's going on here? I'm just painting.
Get out of here! We're doing a shoot. I'm painting. So a lot of great information just about how this thing was created. He watched the movie and this was probably great fun for him because he had so many monsters. The guy loved painting monsters.
I don't know why you need a model because listen, folks, Corben's figures don't look anything close to what he's got his own Frazetta thing going on. Like Frazetta paints like he doesn't know how the human anatomy works. So does Corben. Like Corben's women are more boobs than anything else.
You think about the audience that you're painting for at the time you're writing these underground magazines bought by young men. There's almost a voting system going on of the kind of stuff that they prefer. And you see that start to come out with a lot of these pulp magazines because he's not the only one. Richard Corben's not the only one who draws this way and paints this way.
People still do it.
On the things he focuses. Oh, easily.
Okay, here's the thing, folks. People do art to what their fantasy is. That's why.
Right.
That's why Mima's novels are all about this perfect, Jesus-like guy who comes in, saves them, has like a 12-pound penis, and like goes down on her for 20 hours. Okay, it's not real.
Yes.
It's fantasy. We get that. Like, but guys do the same things, and it usually results in giant boobs, monsters, and desk clerks turning into dudes with again giant penises. I guess that's the same in both.
12-pound penis.
There's a theme here tonight.
Yeah, men want giant penises too, okay? It's not just for you ladies.
Toma power.
Anyway, so if that's not enough about this film, this is what one of the directors involved with said about it. That's one satisfying thing about the whole outcome. Corben did a great poster for it. That is literally the only thing that people say about this movie. The only thing that's redeemable is how good the poster is. So you want to know why Corben was able to put his name on there? It's because no one gave a shit about this movie. And he was just able to do whatever he wanted.
Posters just carry movies.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think, this really shines because it really does show that Corben had his way with this poster. He was able to do whatever he wanted. I mean, with how much confusion there was in the film, I doubt they gave him many notes. And I think it shows because this looks like a Corben piece, without a doubt.
It does.
And this was done in his signature style with oils. Moving on to our next piece here. This is a poster for the film,
which I love.
Dark Planet. Engineer,
I love this poster.
Tell me about Dark Planet.
What you have, and I love cosmic horror kind of stuff. Cosmic horror being, involving
welcome back
space somehow, monsters, the unknown, that kind of thing. And this is just a great cosmic horror image. So in the background, you have this sort of almost psychedelic kind of mist and planet kind of background going on. You have two planets, yellow, pink mist. And right coming up is this sort of almost phallic looking shape. And it's a monster. And it's tentacles and teeth and eyes and spikes. And you don't really know what it is.
Tentacles.
Only you know that it's tentacly and scary, and I don't want to meet this thing in real life.
And it's got sharp tiffs.
And at its feet are bones and dead bodies.
Babes.
Yes.
Bones and babes.
Bones and
some of them are both of them are endowed well. Again.
Yes.
The signature well-endowedness.
The signature Corben endowment there. Yeah, this is a fantastic piece. I don't know, he just his shadowing, his lighting, I don't know, his work looks like someone drawing cartoons photorealistically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And you've got to love a 1970s, 1980s planet.
Yeah.
You just got to love that.
Yeah. I mean, he's got those Frazetta plants going on. But yeah. It looks like he's drawing cartoons, and then he's going through with his oils, and he's adding the fine art layer to him. Now, this film, it looks like, was directed by Richard Corben and executive produced by his wife.
Yes. So this film, this is really why I decided to do the posters, folks. Okay. So, and also this is why I pursued the sculptures as well. So the other thing to me about Corben's work is so often it almost looks like he's painting over a photograph of a sculpture or of something, because it has that look of being an actual object. And again, he captures that with this. And
it looks rotoscoped.
It does. It looks rotoscoped. And this is actually a creature from the movie. And then again, with the maquettes, if you look at the Corben endowed woman on the left-hand side, and you go to the slide I had in the beginning, there are several angles that you can see in that link I gave you folks
that he used.
I'm kind of wondering if this was one of them, because if you rotate it, the posture is very similar. I can't verify that, but I like to think that he might have used that for this film. That tied those things together for me, because I definitely think he probably used references quite a lot. But onto the film, yes, Corben loved making films. He made films early on. Later on, he actually one of his things he wanted to do was to produce and make animated films. And he made his first animated film when he was younger. It was called Neverwhere, and it was actually the story of Den.
Yeah.
And you can find that on YouTube. It's a short film. It's about 14 minutes. It's super primitive, but it is fun. He had all these ideas for these different short stories, and I couldn't find the exact story about why he decided to make his own movie, but he had the funding, and he decided to direct, produce, write, and act in his very own film.
That's too many hats.
Yes. This movie has stop motion. It has claymation. It is a hot mess of a movie. There were only 3,000 copies made on VHS. So if you have this movie, you have something rare. But yes, Corben made this film pretty much like with his own hands. It's another one of those things where someone has a passion for something and they are in a totally left field and they decide, you know what? I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to make a movie. And folks, that's what this is. It's
a passion project.
It's a passion project. It's a student project. The claymation just straight up looks like blobs of clay. The monster that you see on the cover of the poster is a horrendous flopping thing. And it's just, there's barely any talking through the entire thing, just like Corben. It's basically silence.
Show it, don't say it, baby.
No dialogue.
There are cavemen with machine guns.
I gotta watch this movie.
There's sacrifice. It's all done in these there's these crazy just trippy segments with colors. If you do narcotics, I highly suggest it while you watch this, because
where can you see this?
This is on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
Oh boy.
Just prepare yourself, folks, because what this is it's exactly what Ink said. This is a Corben passion project, and I just really enjoyed discovering this, because I love when people take something and they just, we call it kind of expanding your brand or living your brand. And that's what he did here. He made the poster. He took on way too much responsibility. But you know what? He made a movie. It's a little piece of Richard Corben that we have in a completely different element, which I think is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just got off the interview with David Peterson, and there are special individuals out in our universe that have the ability to wear so many hats and do it well. And I think the core of it is, like Bringineer said, it's passion. It is the fuel that will bring you to take chances and do things that you weren't expecting to do.
And I think it's it's like Vidar said too. If you're gonna do it, you do it. And David Peterson said the same thing. He said, "Go." It's the same thing. If you want to make something, you gotta make it. That's all there is to it.
Don't sit around thinking and wishing. You act.
Yes. However, maybe hire a different director. or possibly a writer, or, a production crew, even.
Now, where Corben was in his element was in the realm of the comic book and magazine covers.
It's almost like we're working backwards. We're going backwards.
Yeah. So this is where Corben spent the majority of his career, making amazing covers and amazing comics for a variety of various publications.
Oh, just all the colors from the cereal bowl melting into the milk, making this weird color palette.
This is Trix. This is Captain Crunch. Oops, all berries. This is
a shark in every bowl.
Nobody knows what that is. Yeah. That cereal's been outlawed in at least 37 states.
So that color is going in the cover decoder color palette.
Yeah, it's all of those. So what we have up here is we have a couple covers from Creepy. Now I love horror comics. I love them. There's something.
The Pistachio Mansion is
overflowing.
overflowing.
The doors are opening. We are now in the Pistachio Mansion.
It is overflowing.
See my comic collection.
Magazine.
Try the pistachios.
Magazine. Eerie.
So in the 50s, there was pre-50s comic books were largely free, and by that I mean you could kind of publish what you wanted in them, And these pulp magazines and these comic magazines, kids bought them, snatched them up. They were filled with violence and horror and, all.
This is before the crackdown.
This was before the 50s comics code, right? And so, slowly that sort of lessened as those kind of rules sort of went on, right? And so what you ended up with is new horror comics, like Creepy, for example, which came out in 64. You've got Eerie, which came out in 66. Vampirella. You have, a whole variety of different comics coming out. Now, this is what Corben was doing. He was putting his own stories and comics in these magazines. He was doing these incredible covers. So who wants to... Josh, why don't you explain the first Creepy cover?
Oh, yeah. Inks, this is for you.
Yes. I appreciate this.
Steglamachi in there is munching on a...
So this is 1 million years BC. Beautiful caveman or cave woman. She's got the golden blonde hair, the tight furkini holding back all of her cavely endowments, and she is perched atop a fluorescent blue prehistoric lizard. It is a lizard. It's not quite a dinosaur because it's got the legs flaring out. But I love the green color mixture going along the head and over the back with the scales. And behind her is one of my favorite things to do is a yellow fading into orange, slowly into pink as a sunset or sunrise. And honestly, I looked at some creepy covers today, and this one's pretty tame compared to some of his other stuff.
They are, yeah.
She has clothes on.
Yep. Creepy covers can be pretty ghoulish. This one just really highlights what Corben did best. And this dinosaur
it's fantastic.
Is positively popping out of the page.
Yeah.
His use of shadows to define his subjects is extreme, but it works. It works incredibly. So well. And like Tapes was saying, this looks like he painted over a model. Yeah. Like he didn't. This is his paintwork, but this is how like detailed his work is. That he looks like he's painting, something that's real.
He had such a style, folks. He's one of those guys where when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's Richard Corben. You cannot mistake it.
Yeah, it's believable. The forms are believable so that the colors and the setting can be outrageous.
Yeah, totally. And I love the tagline here. hideous monsters, gangland slayings, horrible mutants, and women in peril. Plus, rampaging mummies, and more 8 incredible tales. And
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
It's a regular night at Tang's, folks.
And then you have the classic drippy, creepy font. Which is just so great. Now, Tapykins, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the next cover
I have seen this cover so many times. It is a delicious hot meal right in my tummy slot. And what we have here, folks, is this poor peasant man wearing a yellow jumpsuit, and he's stirring a giant pot of soup inside a giant piss yellow bowl, and he didn't realize that the chunks that he was stirring were giant freaking sharks, and they are just jumping out of the water. One is coming up behind him, about to take a giant bite out of his back, and in fact, his giant soup spoon that he's using there is impaling one, and blood is coming out of his mouth. And presumably he's on some sort of sinking raft because he's sort of standing, and behind him is one of his poor shipmates who's just kind of like trying to hold on.
His chum.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Hey!
His chum is barely chumming on there, and he's slipping off, probably already half eaten, and just the colors from the yellow sky are just gleaming off the water, and just water is always incredible to me that people can paint. And again, Corben had it looks so juicy. I want to just like chew on it like bubble gum. I just want to jump in this piece and wrestle those sharks.
Yes. And once again, like all Corben, I mean, the definition is just bonkers.
Dude, yeah, I love the emotion on this guy's face.
Oh yeah,
he's got wasn't my war. He's just like
his muscles are
so
just
straight.
standing out.
I'm just trying to row this boat, man.
Now, if you scroll down, we got the final of the creepy and eerie ones that I put up. So I'll read the eerie one for you, or explain the eerie one for you. What you have here is a lot of Brengineer Brown.
This is
so much Brengineer Brown.
This looks like Brengineer's after Thanksgiving.
It's like if you took brown, if you spilled hot chocolate into your salsa
and gravy.
That's the color.
Yes. This is clearly a sci-fi image. You have some weird looking aliens with some weird, like if the bottoms of their face were moss. That's the kind of alien. I love the alien design in this.
I love that they're shopping.
Yeah.
I'll take that one.
Yep.
Yeah, they're
clearly
poo men.
looking.
They're poo men from Planet Brown.
For me,
They're poo pee men. They're looking for. They're looking for something
eat a whole
to
one
eat.
myself. I'll just take half.
Here on Planet
Right?
Shitterax.
What works great here is that these aliens are staring at you, dear reader, and one is pointing your way.
I'm going to steal your dork.
So there we go. And lastly, I put on the end here, Creepy Presents Richard Corben, which is a great hardcover book that is basically an anthology of all of Corben's work.
Wow.
And on here you have a horrifying...
Even his ghoul women.
A horrifying ghoul with just...
You want to? You want to? I mean, look at the chest.
I'll tell you guys, I feel like after a night at Tang's, I might...
Hey,
Yeah,
could you just lay your head back on this rock so I can just see the...
You have a moldering woman, still clearly alive, wearing...
Pendulous. Pendulous breasts.
Yes, just...
Good arms, though.
Yeah, I mean, wearing some strange brown cloth, a crumbling manor in the background. Great cover.
You just
And
pick
then
one of those
lastly-
things
you
up
don't
and
want her to
smash
do-
someone's head with them.
And exactly. And lastly, the very last one I'm going to show you, I'm not going to go too deep because this is an episode all its own. We've talked about it a little bit, but I've got heavy metal.
Yes.
The poster for the making of movie.
One of the other posters that he did, folks.
That he did. And I'm holding my first 1977 first edition heavy metal magazine in my hand, and it has within probably the most famous piece of Corben art of all time. It is a single frame of his famous character Den, simply standing there with his big donkey penis, just hanging, just swinging in the breeze.
Yeah, sorry, folks. This one's got a lot about the swinging dork, but it's Corben.
Heavy metal was
meat that swings.
Adult illustrated science fiction fantasy magazine. It was originally Metal Hurlant, because it was released in France. That was the French name for it, Metal Hurlant. And it was created by Juliet, Jean-Claude Forest, and Mobius. So
Mobius, yes.
3 just incredibly talented, famous artists who wanted to create this anthology magazine to showcase different artists' imagination and ideas, and it ended up being filled with a lot of breasts and penises and robots with breasts and penises and just
everything a growing young person needs.
Well, I think Den found a very welcome home there.
Yes.
Wasn't that one of his big breaks, was getting into heavy metal magazine, because then he was able to have these serials of Den's adventures.
Yes.
And Den was just, I mean, he couldn't have found a better place
so Den,
to park that dork.
When you open up Heavy Metal Magazine, number 1, right? You open it up, there's a few ads and whatever. The very first story is Den, right?
Oh, okay.
The very first story, you have this amazing front page here. And the second page, you have no doubt of what you're getting into, because a few panels down, you get the 12-pound penis.
Yep, there it is.
It's right
there.
The
Polish sausage is just laying on the altar.
And if the front cover of a endowed robot crushing another robot wasn't a indication enough not to buy this for your son Timmy, then page number 2 of Den would be a good indication.
And so what's really cool too, folks, is like we talked about with his need to create, his want to explore new things, making films. When he started off doing comics, he couldn't keep up with the colorization because it was too difficult. I mean, it took too much time, and he wasn't able to.
It was expensive.
Yeah, he wasn't able to fund it. So he actually invented a technique for coloring. I looked this up, folks, and I could not understand it because I am an idiot compared to the likes of Richard Corben. But what's hilarious is I actually found a quote by Richard Corben about his technique. And I'm going to read it for you now. He said, "I invented a technique, my system of color overlays, which apparently nobody can understand." Yes! Right there! He's speaking to me! But it's really very simple. The luminescent quality of my color overlays is derived from the way I combine the colors. I shoot the photomechanical separations myself to a slightly higher contrast than a normal photo engraver would do. This makes the colors appear brighter. I'm excited when I do finally see the colors. I can see if my ideas work well or not so. So even though he said it's very simple, I still can't understand it. So, Brangineer and Inks, do you know what's going on there?
Hell if I know.
Well, so there's a. All right, okay. Here we go. When it comes to printing and art, there is a type of printing known as CMYK. Now, what you have is you have CMYK and you have RGB. Now, in our modern age, RGB is used for screen. But if you're going to print something, you're going to make sure that the color format is in CMYK. The reason why is I don't know if it's thanks to comic book art printing, but back in the day, they had to print everything in 4 colors. You got the white of the paper, so that's not a color. Then you got cyan, magenta.
Yes, that is what it
yellow.
showed.
and I'm not sure what K stands for. It may be black, but I do know that it's cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. And so what most artists were doing at the time is they would just paint. And then they would have someone do a color separation. I'm not too familiar with all that. I do need to do some study because we're going to come back around to this, and I want to give you guys a proper rundown. But he couldn't afford that. So what he would do is he would paint it in black and white.
Yes.
And then he would scan it. Or take the picture, he'd scan it. Then he'd print that out into different layers and go through and do the layers himself. So he would go through, you take your finished product painting, and he'd go through and he'd meticulously figure out where all the cyan, the yellow, magenta, very time consuming. Yeah. And so an example, if I'm kind of losing you, if you want to create, say pink, you have, magenta and yellow kind of separated out. The dots are separated out using the white paper to give you that pink look, right? If you want to create green, you have to have yellow and cyan mixing together. But it's all about spacing the colors and using these 4 colors to create all of the rich colors that you see on the front. And the fact that he would go through and he would painstakingly map out each one himself and figure out where the colors were going to go. And he wouldn't know what it looked like until he then, I guess he took pictures of it or print or scanned it back in and then had them overlay over each other. And that's what he was talking about, being so excited to see his colors come through. And he said he had a higher resolution when he would do that. And that's why his stuff came out so crispy. This is a special human that is so passionate about getting
that
his
is
stuff
why
right,
he's a legend,
going to
folks.
these links.
Yeah.
He's legendary.
And I have to believe, so you might ask, well, why kind of bring this up? But when you look at his stuff down the road and some of his paintings, it has that same quality. It has that same luminescent, like we were just talking about with the Dark Star poster there. It has that same look of this like lifelike luminescence. And I just have a feeling that those colors were already in his brain. And this process, this technique, was just him working out the colors that he already had designed. And he just took that and was able to apply that even when he was painting later in life, which is why his stuff looks so incredible. So I have a feeling that colorscape and that technique just helped him to basically make that creamy, bright style that he had and just continue that forward.
If you want to know what it takes, if you want to know what it is to see the realization of your art, your style, your passion, whatever it is, just go for it. Go all the way. Make that weird movie. Figure out your own colors. Make a comic about a gigantic man with an even more gigantic heart and penis. Yes. There is an audience for you. They will find you, or they won't. Until something like Heavy Metal Magazine comes along, and it's the perfect platform. You've got to go out and go completely 100 more than 100%. And we are 100%, more than 100% grateful that you guys have joined us tonight.
Yes.
To hold up our liquor and our polar bottles, and we pour out a little bit to this legendary man, this person that has sent us in so many directions. We will come back to Corben.
Not the last time.
He is ingrained in so many things that we will see him again. But and there is so much more that we cannot cover. We have links. We have links for you at our website, coverdecoder.com. We got the show notes. You can see the slides.
Check them out.
See all the little.
You can see all these dongs
in the slides.
All these hangers.
That's right.
So many dongs.
Right. You can find us on the Instagram. We love doing the Instagram at Cover Decoder. We've got a new thing up there. We've got the Bookhouse Archives. We haven't been able to go back to our beloved Bookhouse in much time. So Tapes came up with this
mini
Bookhouse
decodes, folks.
idea.
Mini decodes for you.
Mini decodes. Yes. And that doesn't mean that we won't cover that material on the show, but if you just need a little bit of that covered to cocaine, you can find it at our Instagram, Covered Decoder. We have a Patreon. And for $2, the price of, you can't even buy the heavy metal movie at the Walmart bin.
No,
for $2.
It's prized at least $3.99.
At least. But you know what you can buy? You can buy your way into the cover cult.
Right. Hours of content.
Be with the cover cult. You can take the coin and you can see all the great shows that we put up there. Our latest one was the Polish Posters.
It was
we had
so good, folks.
Moondog before that. Right. We really get personal because you pay the $2, you get the coin, you put on the cloak, and you join us. And lastly, you can send us covers, you can send us comments, you can send us love.
Please do.
At our Gmail, coverdecoder@gmail.com. Be like Strider, be the fourth decoder on this episode and help us celebrate these artists. And finally, remember, when life gives you Lochnar, make a 12-pound penis.
Wow, 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 wow.
Big!
Yeah!